Yeah. The second Samuel is over, and in the book of Second Samuel we saw the life and reign of uh, David. Okay. First Samuel, Second Samuel. See his glorious years of reign, and also we have seen the success of David. We have seen the sins of David. We have seen, and also we have seen the consequences of the sin of David. Okay. I told you the last class, no one can sin without consequences. Anyone, however dear that person to God, however efficient or eminent that person is, still that person has to meet with the consequences of sin. That is what we have seen. And today we are going to the next book. Do you remember the memory verses we have learned over there? The book of Second Kings. What was the memory verse? It was 7 verse 12 and 13. When your days are fulfilled and you rest with your fathers, I will set up your seed after you, and who will come from your body, and I will establish his kingdom, and he shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. And again, 22 verse 21, the Lord rewarded me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanness of my hands, and he has recompensed me. And the key chapter is the 11th chapter of 2nd Samuel. Okay, so there we have seen the triumph of David, the triumphs of David from chapter 1 to 4. Then we have seen chapter 1 to 10. Sorry, chapter 1 to 10. Then we have seen the transgressions of David in chapter 11. Then we have seen the troubles of David in chapter 12 to 24. That is what we have seen. Okay, I'm not staying there for a long time because we need to move on to the next book. The next book is the book of First Kings. Okay, First Kings and Second Kings. The similar way, First Samuel and Second Samuel. Are you listening? Yeah. Then, this book has 22 chapters. It has 22 chapters. Okay, and this book, having 22 chapters, can be divided exactly into two halves, so that you can very easily remember it. First 11 chapters and the next 11 chapters. Chapter 1 to 11, one part. Chapter 12 to 22, second part. Chapters 1 to 11 tell us about the reign of Solomon, the son of David. Okay, the son of David. And chapters 12 to 22 tell us about a number of kings, and also about a divided kingdom. That means immediately after the reign, after the time, after the life of Solomon, the united kingdom, that is commonly we call it as the kingdom of Judah or kingdom of Israel, commonly sometimes we call that kingdom where David was king, where Saul was king, where Solomon was king. That kingdom was divided into two. Okay? Geographically speaking, one part is northern part and the other part is southern part. Southern part was a smaller part, a smaller kingdom, and northern part was a bigger kingdom. Because the northern kingdom comprised of 10 tribes. Okay, and southern kingdom comprised of mainly Judah and then Benjamin. Okay, that means partly two tribes. Okay, but broadly speaking, you can say that the tribe of Levites, actually, they were also a part of Jerusalem. They were part of Jerusalem, so they were a part of southern kingdom. And what was the name of this northern kingdom? Northern kingdom was called Israel, and southern kingdom was called Judah. Okay, so kingdom of Judah, that is the southern kingdom, and kingdom of Israel, that is northern. So wherever you read from chapter 12 onwards to 2nd Kings and in Chronicles, you need to remember that. That's all about the northern kingdom. Means the kingdom of Israel means the northern kingdom, which comprised of the 10 tribes who drift away from the kingdom of Judah, that is David and his tribe. Okay, so that is what it is. So before going into further details about this first book, the King of First and Second Kings, we today focus our attention to the book of First Kings. So that is why I told you about division of this First Kings. And the half of this book, First Kings, traces the life of Solomon, and under the rulership of Solomon, under the kingship of Solomon, the nation of Judah, comprising of all the 12 tribes, rose to its peak of glory, and also peak of its size. That was the most peaceful time that the people of Israel, God's people, enjoyed. During the time of Solomon, there were no wars, there were no battles. Okay? There were no border issues. You know that India has the border issue every day. We have a border security force. Okay? But there was no issue. It was not because of the capacity or the ability of Solomon. It was because of the capacity of David. Because David had conquered almost all the enemy kingdoms surrounding Israel. Okay, he has conquered every kingdom, and he has brought in to Israel many local kingdoms that was around. Okay, so during the time of Solomon, he never had to fight. Okay, so he focused on construction. He constructed his city, he constructed his palace, and most importantly, he constructed that temple. And Solomon in history is known for the construction of the temple in Jerusalem. Okay? And also he is known for his wisdom. Okay? For his wisdom. He is normally called the wisest of the wise. Okay? And but the tragedy of the life of Solomon was, have you ever go home and read this book of First Kings, at least in 11 chapters, over and over again, if you're not getting the time to read from chapter 12 onwards, and see how a promising life is perishing and coming to nothing. He started as a very promising man, but he ended his life in a very shameful manner. Okay? Had you and I got such an opportunity, we would have thought that we would have become much better and better, performed better. Okay? But that is not what happened. At least a few incidents in the life of Solomon. Okay? And Solomon was the son to David through Bathsheba. Okay? And David wanted to make him the king, even though David had other wives and sons, children through other wives. David promised to make Solomon the son of Bathsheba, the king. Okay. And the day he was enthroned, coronated, he was not so much talented. He was talented, but he was not that much capable to continue the kingship of David, because David was such a fantastic king. He was an unconquerable king of that time. We know that from the very early life, he has shown that promising nature. He has defeated a lion, a bear, Goliath. His life was very glamorous. Okay, and but his son's life. See, I think you have heard or you have read. The day he was enthroned, he prayed to God. He never prayed for riches. He never prayed for wealth. He never prayed for victory in battles. He never prayed for the conquest of the nations. Instead, he prayed for the wisdom to rule God's people. Okay? And in a dream, God appeared to him. And, or better I say, at the beginning, he saw a dream. He saw a dream that God is coming to him and telling him and granting his request and promising him to wisdom more than anyone else. And along with the wisdom, God promised him the riches, the wealth, the victories, and everything that he had never asked for also. Because God said, you have only asked for wisdom. So God was pleased to give him everything, whatever he has not asked for also. Okay, that was a dream. Okay, and actually when Solomon got up, what would have his thought? He could have thought, had this dream be a reality, had really God come to me and told me or given me, offered me this wisdom. But actually that was, it happened to be not just a dream. God gave him the wisdom that no one else could excel. Okay? And his wisdom made him popular, famous. You know, Queen Sheba from Ethiopia has come all the way from Ethiopia to see the marvelousness of the wisdom of Solomon. And she was totally amazed, marveled to see how great Solomon was. But as his life progresses, his reigning progresses, what we see is, no, he was not a stable man. He took wives from the heathen nations, not just one or two, hundreds. Okay, and he went after Egypt for getting horses, and he was a man who lived according to his passions. Okay. That means his heart was not focused on the Lord. That is what the Bible says. It was not focused to the Lord. That means he was a man with a divided heart. His allegiance was partly to the Lord and partly to the nations. So what we read in the Bible is that his wives have tempted him away. They have took his heart away to the temples of the heathen nations where his wives were worshipping. Okay? So at the end of the story, towards the chapter 11, we see the man who constructed the temple, you know, the man who worshipped in the Jerusalem temple where God's presence was there, God's miraculous activities happening, finally going and kneeling down before the heathen idols. Okay? So he was a man with a divided heart. At the end of his life, immediately after his death, the nation also got divided. Okay? The nation also got divided. That means a divided man left a divided kingdom. That's the moral of the story. His heart was divided before the Lord. So his family got divided. And ultimately his nation also got divided. Okay? And then you see the history of the twin nations. I told you, southern kingdom called the kingdom of Judah. The northern kingdom called the kingdom of Israel. These twin nations and two sets of kings. Two sets. I will go detail into the lives of those kings. Not much in detail, but at least a brief outlook on that. And the nation gradually grew indifferent to God's word, God's prophets, God's priests, God's precepts. That means finally, more and more, we went away from the Lord. Okay? And as a result, what happened is, after a few years, the kingdom of Israel, that means the northern kingdom, the bigger kingdom, okay, the larger part, comprised of 10 tribes, they went into exile, into Assyria. The Assyrians came and conquered them. Okay? And after a few more years, almost 150 years more, the kingdom of Judah was taken to Babylon. That means both the nations ultimately perished. Okay? The people of the kingdom of Israel, which was ruled by many kings, which did not belong to the family of David. I told you that the kingdom was divided into two. The kingdom of Israel and kingdom of Judah. Judah was the place where, the family of David, his successors, they reigned. Whereas kingdom of Israel, the northern kingdom, was reigned by different people from different clans. Okay, they were not kings. Okay, one king defeated another, one person defeated another, and he became king. Then he was defeated by another, then that person became king. So not as a continuous chain. But the kingdom of Judah was continuously reigned by the sons of David. Okay, the throne of David remained in Judah. But at the end of that, and before that, the northern kingdom, I told you, what is it called? Israel. And the capital of that nation, that kingdom, was Samaria. Okay, and capital of Judah was Jerusalem. Okay, so what was the difference? In Jerusalem, Solomon made the temple. So Jerusalem temple was in Jerusalem, and in Israel there were no temple there. So they worshipped God in high places and here and there, just like they worshipped before the time of temple. But as a result, what happened? Their worship gradually slipped away, and finally it became idolatry. Okay, and there God raised a prophet, and this first king is also the story of that man. From 1 Kings chapter 17 onwards, you see the story of a thundering man. That is the prophet Elijah. Okay, Elijah was a man like our own passions, like us, but still he thundered against Ahab, the king of Israel. So in the first books, in the first Kings, mainly you come across these three personalities. Which three personalities? Solomon, then the prophet Elijah, then his enemy, in a sense. What made Ahab more popular was, or unpopular was, his enmity, his rivalry against Elijah. Every time he challenged him. Okay? And that is how the story of the First Kings goes. Okay? And when I come to the title of this book, normally we see originally in the Hebrew, the title of this book is Melachim. More correctly, it was Vahamelech, and that is the first two words of the first Kings. What is 1:1? First Kings 1:1. Right? Now King. Okay. So Melech means king. Okay. Abimelech, you would have heard. Melchizedek. Melech or Melch, you see, as a part of the name, that means king. Okay, and then we have already seen in the book of Ruth, the name of that person was Elimelech. Elimelech means God is my king. God is my king, or God is king. Okay, so the Hebrew title of this book is Melachim, and originally this was a single book. And Septuagint, Septuagint, already we have said about multiple times the Greek translation of the Bible done by 70 scholars. And this Septuagint divided the book of Kings in the middle of the story and made it 2 Kings. Okay, the first part of the book was called the First Kings, and the second part of the book is called the Second Kings. And actually, Septuagint called in a different way. The first and second Samuel, they divided. First divided into 2 and called First Samuel and Second Samuel. They called the book of First Kingdoms and Second Kingdoms. And First King and Second Kings they called the book of Third Kingdom and Fourth Kingdoms. Okay, that is how they named it. And later, when it was Fourth Kingdom, when the Septuagint sometimes may have divided these books, that is Samuel, Kings, and Chronicles, they might have divided. And later, this was called the first 2, the book of First Kingdoms and the book of Second Kingdoms were named as First Samuel and Second Samuel, and the book of Third Kingdom and Fourth Kingdom named as First King and Second Kings. Okay, and in the Latin title is the Book of Kings. That is the third and fourth book of Kings. That is the Liber, Regum, Tertius and Quartus. Tertius and Quartus means third and fourth. Okay, so just to remember the Hebrew title and see the Septuagint titles. That may be important. Okay. Now, one more thing I would like to say about this book. Then the remaining part. Already I have told you the content of the book in a sense. Okay, but still I will go back to it. This book covers a period of 120 years. Remember that. The first book, the First Kings, comprises a period of 120 years. That means from the reign of Solomon starting, that was in 971 BC, and till 851 BC. That is during the reign of Assyria. That is what we see here. And then a main question that we need to answer is, who is the author, the writer of this book? First Kings. Who wrote this book? In every book we have seen Pentateuch was written by the 5 books, the initial 5 books, Moses. Then we see different people involved in writing Joshua, other prophets, Samuel, and all we have seen. And actually, who wrote the book of First and Second Kings is not exactly known. No, it is unknown in a sense. But still, most of the scholars think after the tradition in Talmud, the Hebrew writings, okay, the Talmudic tradition. The Talmudic tradition maintained that this book was written by Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah. We cannot convincingly prove it, but still most of the scholars think like that. No, and some evidences or some why we conclude that this man that is Jeremiah may be the author, the writer of this book. A few reasons we can cite, not very convincing. One reason is that the style of the book of First Kings and Second Kings and the style of the prophecy of the book of Jeremiah are somewhat similar, not exactly similar. So you know that when you study literature, or if you read more, you are more acquainted with the books, you will come to know that from the style of writing, you will come to, you may be able to guess who the author or the writer is. That may be a guess, and may not be properly, especially during our time. It is impossible. Okay, and we are technology in that era. And so maybe that he may be the writer of this book. But when you read through this book of First Kings, you see chapter 11 verse 41 tells us about the book of Acts of Solomon. Then in some other places after telling us the history of or the story of one king, most of the time it writes these things are written in the chronicles of the kings of Israel. Or somewhere we read, these are written in the books of the Chronicles of Judah, kings of Judah. Okay, that means definitely there would have been a diary, a palace diary, what daily happened. Okay, the Chronicles, and that had been kept in their archives. Okay, so that may be the source of this book. So this may not be the work of a single author, we cannot say, but this may be the compilation of the information collected from these various books. Solomon was a good writer, so he would have definitely kept a record of the things that happened during his time, except what happened negatively in his life. Okay, and much of the positive things he would have written, and then everyday activity of the kings of Judah and kings of Israel were recorded in the Palace Chronicles. Okay, and that may be, that means the official records. And when we read the book of Isaiah, chapter 36 to 39, you read what happened in the life of Hezekiah. Okay, you read that. Okay, the same thing you can see written in 2 Kings chapter 18 to 20. You go home and read that. Book of Isaiah chapter 36, 37, 38, 39. Definitely that would have been written by whom? Isaiah. Okay. The same things are written in 2 Kings 18 to 20. So that gives us a clue to guess who may be the author of the first Kings and second Kings. See, not a work of a single person. Okay? The information collected in this book or the information recorded in this book may be a compilation from various sources. Various sources. Understand? Yeah. So that is about the book, that is the author of the book. But commonly, we accept that who is the author? Jeremiah is the author of the book of First Kings. So in the exam, if the question is coming, who is the writer of, who is the author of the First Kings, what do you have to write? Jeremiah. So what's the more correct answer? Unknown. Okay. If you write unknown, I will give you answer. I will give you mark. But who is checking your paper? I don't know. So don't write like that. Write Jeremiah. Okay. So that's all for today. And I have just given an overview of the book, and then I told you a storyline of the book, and also I emphasized on the authorship of the book. The remaining part of the book we will see in the next class. So please at least revise using your textbook, and if possible try to read through these books. What's the advantage? Most of you have already completed your 12th and your admission process are going on, so you may get ample time to read now. So if you just follow the lessons as I teach, that will help you to read through the Bible also, okay, especially the Old Testament. Okay, you will be able to read through the Old Testament and learn from it. May God bless us. Let's pray.